Well, hi, Dad.
Hi,
Hi. We're
where are
sitting
all the people?
here. They'll be watching.
Oh, okay. So we don't get to see them necessarily, right?
Right, but they can leave comments.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and ask questions. So what I wanted to just go ahead and talk about today is actually, hold on, in order to see people's comments, I do need to open something up. 1 second. But
Sure.
while I'm doing that, we can go ahead and talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I feel like people want to hear about is how to interrupt programming. And you're so good with the powers of consciousness and the subconscious and how and I bring it a lot into the body because people can't just work with their mind. They have to work with the body. So how the nervous system and the brain work together, right? They're one.
Yep. Yep.
So maybe you could share a little bit about that, how programming gets so to help people not feel so crazy and stuck, how programming just like an addiction can be like an addiction, and what we need to do to help reprogram that. What maybe educate a little bit on that, and then what can people do to start reprogramming their body and their mind? Is that a good
Yeah,
one?
yeah, sure. Just guide me through it. So I've been studying this probably 50 years, whatever it's been, and very seriously the last 30. It's my favorite thing to think about or talk about because consciousness rules our life.
Right.
So we have one consciousness really, but it expresses itself differently. So most of you probably know, you've heard the expression the self-conscious. In fact, that's what we're using right now as we're talking, taking some notes or whatever. That's the self-conscious.
Right.
Then we have this mysterious thing called the subconscious. And then the other thing we have is called the superconscious. You can call it God, you can call it your higher self, whatever word, the divine part that's inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, later, Carly, I can share that triangle diagram that I have that I love, and you could give it to everybody because basically it just shows a triangle. And at the top is the superconscious. And then down at the bottom, we have the self-conscious in one corner and the subconscious in the other. This little area makes up our personality, the
lower
ego,
part.
the lower part. Yeah. So usually what we do is we leave out of the equation the most important part, the divine part, our higher self.
The part at the top of the triangle.
Exactly. So if you
Right.
try to run your life from the personality level, we all know from experience, it doesn't work. It will never work. That's the problem. So how do we correct it? Well, very simply. I mean, God didn't set this up to be a difficult task. We are born perfect. You look at little babies, little kids, look at all these grandkids that I have. They're perfect.
Yeah.
But what happens, they're born into this, what Carl Jung called the race consciousness, which is everything that's going on out there. And we all know it's crazy,
Right.
the negativity and the stress and the worry. Well, that can seep into our consciousness, whether we've had trauma or not.
Yeah.
But then we're born in this life and we have some traumatic experiences that gets programmed in.
Right.
And so when we're operating just from the bottom level, the personality, it's like a loop. I think one thing, then I feel another, and blah, blah, blah. And it never stops, it seems like. So we need help. We all need help. And I got to tell a story, and you don't even know I'm going to tell this, but I think it's great. You
Okay.
guys out there, you got to get Karlee's training. I'm telling you, and I know I'm not just trying to sell something, but I believe it. So I'll give you an example. I was born and raised in Morgan Hill, California, a little town about an hour south of San Francisco. Beautiful little town of only 1,000 people. My mom and dad were happily married. They were like the joke of the town. At 50 years marriage, they'd go to the post office and they would hold hands walking down the sidewalk. Real cute, right?
Right.
I had one sibling, an older sister who was a saint. My mom and dad never fought. I think I saw one little teeny argument the whole time I was growing up. So I was born like in a Cinderella place, if you will. So when Carlee was studying traumatic experiencing, I always love whatever anybody in my family's doing, I want to know about it because I'm interested. So when my wife got into neuro-linguistic programming, Karen, you're going to hear about that. You're going to hear about her later. I studied it. When Carlee got into what she's doing, I wanted to read about it and learn about it. So I'll never forget. I go over to her apartment one day and we're just talking. I'm going, wow, this is great. She goes, well, Dad, why don't I do a session on you? And I'm going, well, that's not really going to work because I didn't have any trauma. Well, let's just do it anyway. I said, okay. So I lay down on the couch and she's talking to me and I'm going in the body, trying to find something. And I'm thinking about my childhood. I mean, there's nothing there. She keeps going. And all of a sudden I start bawling like a baby. I mean, I don't cry easily. Okay. Guys don't, right? That's our problem. I'm crying like a baby. It came on so strong. It was almost laughable. I'm almost trying to laugh while I'm crying. And then I start getting some flashes of my beautiful mother when she was a young girl. She had trauma. Okay. Well, obviously, back in those days, there was no such thing as trauma release. So she carried that with her into the room, into me, unbeknownst to me, and then dealt with it in her life. And everything's fine. But I'm going, what the hell is that? So I had some of her stuff in me, but you released it. And then when we got through,
let me just add, when you were saying she carried on and everything was fine, but in ways your mom, my grandma, Nana, wasn't fine. She just coped.
Right.
And
yeah,
you had she coped, and you had a flash that when she was 16. Do you remember I remember the flash that she had to go.
Her mom and dad were doctors and they had to leave Idaho and go to Oklahoma. I guess there was some tragedy and they were both working night and day around the clock helping people. So my mom had one sibling, a younger sister at 14 years old. So my mom had to actually become the mother. She had to shop, she had to cook, she had to take care of her younger sister, no mom and dad. And this went on for like a year.
Yeah, so you started shaking and releasing and crying about when she was 16. You saw very clearly. I think you even said something about her own apartment. I think she had to get her own place.
I think so. It was pretty ugly. I mean, not fun.
Yeah.
So anyway,
her dream. Oh yeah.
Well, here's the good news. We don't know what we got going on inside these cells, what they're carrying. So let's just get rid of it. Here's the thing, guys. If I teach a thing called meditation for manifesting. So we can talk about that forever. I know a lot about meditating, blah, 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 whatever. If I have the flu, let's say, and I have a temperature and I'm sick, am I going to want to hear something about, oh, hey, dude, why don't you meditate? Well, no, I'm in bed. I'm sick. I got to give me the cold press. You first get over the flu, then talk to me. If I've got trauma that's stopping me to go to my next level, we're all in an evolutionary spin here, guys. And you want to go to the next level. You've had enough of this crap. You're born perfect. You got programmed somewhere along the line. And now we got to get that out and we do a reprogramming. It's not difficult. None of this is difficult, but you got to do it. Okay, here's my favorite quote. Einstein.
It feels difficult until you actually do what you're saying.
Damn right. It is difficult, but you need help. Yeah. We all need help. I mean, I've got coaches. I mean, come on, really? We all have something we're dealing with, but Einstein goes, a couple of things. Imagination is more powerful than knowledge. So what you allow your mind to be imagining and blah, 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 all that. I forget exactly how it goes, Carlee, you might remember, but if you're trying to solve the problem with the same consciousness that got you into the problem, it will never work. In fact, he calls it insanity.
Right.
Trying to do something harder when it's not working and you keep pushing and trying, that's insanity.
Right.
So we don't want to do that anymore. We don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. This loop that goes between the self-conscious and the subconscious, which is over here, which is all powerful. It's 90% basically of everything we do. It's called the habit mind. We just get in these loops.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow will be better. No, if you don't get it out, it's going to go with you to the grave. Unfortunately, it's true. I've seen friends of mine that have died with it and ruined their life because they wouldn't get help. And I pleaded with them, dude, if they would have just gone to you or somebody and got that out, they would have turned their whole life around. But they were so afraid to go to that area that they would rather ruin their life in this lifetime. I've had 2 or 3 friends do that. You know who they are, Karlee. It's, oh man, it broke my heart. But you know what? It is what it is. But for any of you out there, you're saying, okay, enough's enough. I'm doing this. Then get somebody to help you. It's not a big deal. You can do it. And when you come out on the other side, so let me tell you what happened. So I get off the couch after we did this session. Seriously, I felt like I was 20 pounds lighter. And I'm a happy guy. I'm optimistic. I don't walk around,
Well,
blah,
let's
blah, blah.
just say a little bit more though about on the couch. You shaked, you cried, you released this
Yes
pattern you'd seen that you'd felt from your mom and how much you didn't realize how much pain she was in because she had dreams of being a doctor. But back then you couldn't. She was a stay-at-home mom. And then she drank a little too much and it was hard. You felt her pain and you released what you felt from her. Go ahead. And then on the couch.
And that's probably what gave her arthritis that she had in her spine, and she had to take meds. And oh my God. So yeah, I got that all out and I thought, wow, I get up, I feel 20 pounds lighter. But here's the fun thing. My 2 best friends that I talk to maybe, every few days, I just happened to talk to them that afternoon, one at 2 o'clock and one at 4 o'clock. I'll never forget. And I just called them up, say, hey, not even to talk about any of this. And the first guy goes, Lee, your voice sounds different. I go, it does? What do you mean? Well, I don't know. It seems like there's more clarity in it, or there's a lightness to it, or whatever. And I go, wow, that's interesting. And then at 4 o'clock, I'm talking to my best friend. He goes, hey, what have you been doing? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you sound totally different. I've known this guy for 50 years. I go, what do you mean I sound totally different? He goes, I don't know. Tell me what you've been doing. So I not only felt lighter, everything about me was lighter just from that one exercise that was maybe 30 minutes? I mean, seriously.
Well, when you release the nervous system, you release stress, your vocal cords, all your muscles get lighter. So people's face changes, their voice changes. There's more space. It's not even airy fairy. It's like an anatomical thing.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but I like all that you're saying. I didn't know you were going to say all this, but to bring it back around, what you're really good at is when you started with that triangle, you'll even, my dad will say to me, when I don't know what to do with work or decisions, say I do nothing of myself. So there's 2 things we're talking about here to keep it clear for people watching and joining us. There's letting your super conscious, your higher self, the divine part of you come over and guide the personality, the ego, the conscious mind. That will help with reprogramming in itself, just even with that. And you can say more about that. And then you move to the work that I do and I think I've done a couple sessions on you where your body actually, you let yourself feel what you need to feel, that you go in the body, you listen, and then the memories and the emotions come out organically. You don't have to try to find it. And you have this release with the right support. And it's like you're cleaning out your subconscious. So then that your higher self, the superconscious, can come in better. Would you say that way?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is when you say the word, it's called self-identity. When you say the word I, most of the time, 90% of the time, probably, when we say I, we're identifying with the ego, the personality.
Mhm.
What we're supposed to be doing when we say I is identifying with that higher self up at the top of the triangle, that spirit within.
Mhm.
So if I can just try to remember as often as I can, and maybe you put up a little something so that it's in your car, it's by your computer, just to remind yourself, or on your phone, like you said, of myself, I do nothing. Because the real truth is we really don't. We think we do, but we don't. So we're running around with this ego that's trying to control things. And we were given the ego for a good reason. So when we're little, the ego is what? Hey, don't step out in the street. You're about to get run over. Don't put your little screwdriver in the wall socket. You'll get electric. Don't eat that. It's poison. All those things that has been guiding us and protecting us. But we then let it, as we got older, to run the show. And all it wants to do is control things.
Right.
And we know the ego can get us into a lot of trouble. So we just want to get that higher self a little bit more engaged with our ego and our personality so it can start doing more. So first thing we got to do is clean out what we can in the subconscious, is where all the garbage went in, the programming.
Clean that out first.
You got to clean it out, because you got to then make room for the new programming to come in, where you deserve to be fulfilled. You deserve to be happy. Come on, really?
You're making me think of something. So I go to Self-Realization Fellowship, which is Yogananda, and every year they have a world convocation, and we can meet with nuns or monks there. It's a spiritual center. I'll put the link to it in the comments here, or in this post, sorry. And I remember my first one asking the nun, I was having some pain, and I was going to, and I'd already done all this work, but I was having some heartbreak or some pain still come up. And I said, how do I go to the next level? Like what I feel clear in my mind and body, but there's still these grief patterns. And she said, you have to let God, the divine, fully take over. And it's like, well, oh no, she said you have to, sorry, I'm saying opposite. You have to get the ego out of the way. And I was like, how do I do that? And she said, you have to fill it up with something else, with the divine, with God. So in order to get the ego and the pain out of the way, you have to replace it. And that's what you're saying. So it's almost like you become empty. You clean out the pain pattern. I had this clarity. I felt good in my mind and body. And then something just still, I felt disconnected, or something didn't feel fulfilled. And she said, that's because you need to fill the void with God, with the divine. So the ego can't keep trying to come up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I love, I know we're not going to go off into my studying has always been what I call the Hermetic sciences, which is Hermetic Kabbalah, esoteric tarot.
And we can always do another,
a whole nother session, but this fits right in. This fits right in with key 0, the Fool. In fact, I wasn't even going to do this, but I just keep this on my desk to remind me. This is the divine, if you will. This is a representation. Can you see it good there?
Yeah, really good. And let people know, this is, some people may not even know what the tarot is, or they think it's new age and weird. This is actually about reprogramming your subconscious, because the Fool represents. Yeah,
the tarot keys were created many, many decades ago by masters of wisdom for the West. It's a Western mystery training system. We don't live in India. We don't live in China. We live here. And so in the industrial parts of Europe, when it first started, the industrial age, the masters goes, we got to give these people something that's practical, powerful, something they can do in a short period of time, because they're not going to go sit under a tree and do ohms for an hour. Ain't going to happen. Right. So they created what I call the esoteric tarot. It's not fortune telling. every tarot key is about a part of your consciousness. So when you study it, one key is about intuition. So if I've done the work on that, I can close my eyes, fire up my intuition. Another key is about focus and concentration. If my mind starts wandering, I'll do that key even in my mind's eye. You see what I mean? Another one's about memory, blah, blah, blah.
It's
But this one
enhancing
here,
it's enhancing each part of your personality to make it stronger and give yourself better programming.
exactly, because we have all these powers within us. So when I said you're born perfect, you're born with all the powers that you need. We just have to, the ones that are lying dormant, we have to bring them up and use them. So intuition doesn't do you any good if you don't really understand it and don't use it.
Right.
Or focusing and concentration and blah, blah. If I don't really know how to do that, then I got my mind wandering all over the place. I can't control my thoughts, like your great course on mind wandering and overthinking. Just real quick though, see that little dog there?
Yeah.
That's the ego. You don't kill the ego, that'd be suicide. But you let the ego know that it's just going to go along for the ride. It's no longer in charge. And once it understands its new role, it will do it. There's you, the higher self, in control of the personality, getting ready to go off on the next journey, but he's taking the little ego with him, of course.
Yeah.
So I just thought that would be an interesting thing.
No,
So,
that's great. That's wonderful.
okay.
We can talk more about that. Yeah, go ahead, finish. Yeah.
So that's basically one of the real important things that I've learned in all these years. If I had to do it, what's your top 3 or 4 takeaways? One of them is your I, self-identity. So from now on, when you're saying I, try to remember you want it to be the higher self I coming in and helping you in this time of stress, trauma, and struggle.
Guide you to the right.
One master goes, it's so easy to ask for help from the angels, from whatever, just do it. Because if you don't do it, it can't do anything. And we forget because we're running around going crazy. And all we got to do is stop, sit down, take a few deep breaths, and connect and ask for help.
That's a great point. We didn't even plan this conversation. It was just going to be about programming. No, this is great. Thank you, Dad. This was so fun. Oh, wonderful. Well, maybe we'll wrap it up here. I'm still learning the technology from streaming from Zoom to Facebook Live, so I can't see from my end if there's chats or people commenting. So the next one, I will make sure I can see it correctly and learn, because when I have Facebook open, there's double the sound. So I have to figure that out. So,
oh man, I tell you, well, I couldn't even get my computer working this morning. So now I'm on the phone, right? But at least we got it done.
Yes. Oh,
hey, we love you guys. And you can do this. You are going to do this. Trust me.
Yeah. Can get better.
You're never given a challenge or a problem that you're not inherently able to solve. The universe doesn't work that way. We all got problems. They just change, they get recycled, but we have the tools and we have the guidance that we need. We have the support from our inner self and from teachers and people like Karlee. You can do it.
And this whole time I'm trying not to cry. You're so cute. I love you, Dad.
Oh, thank you. I love you. Thank you for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
Yay.
I'm proud of you. Yay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.